Talkers. This is Hal Weinshank with soullearn.com with another Tuesday night soul talk. And the topics for today are going to be spiritual deception and elitism and finding purpose. Okay, so let's get started. The big thing that I'm noticing in consciousness right now, in which I have to sort of give a warning or a caution about, is I'm seeing a lot of what I call spiritual elitism or spiritual deception. Okay, I've been doing this since the early 90s, and I took a bit of a hiatus for a few years, but after that I've come back again. And the thing I noticed even way back in the 90s, and you'll probably notice this as well if you hang out in enough groups, is there's a sort of a spiritual elitism, meaning back in the 90s and today people will say, well, you know, in the method that I've learned, you know, you have to get your frequency to a certain level or you're just not going to ascend. You're just not enlightened. And back then it was the same thing back in the 90s. Well, I study the yoga something, or I've studied this so technique and I'm going to be enlightened. And I don't know about you, but you're probably just going to be left behind. This is all nonsense. This is all garbage, okay? That's ego. That's ego being mixed in with spiritual principles. The overarching universal laws, I recommend looking up the 12 universal laws, number one, and then number two, looking up the law of one, or the teachings of Ra. These are not gospel. These are not Bibles. They're called laws, and everyone in the universe, the galactics and such, abide by these laws, but they're meant to be guides. They're meant to be, you know, a recipe for what you need to be doing in your life. So under the universal laws, we are all growing, learning, experiencing as a soul. We're expanding, okay? That's ongoing. It is actually impossible for you, no matter if you're doing the work, meaning the spiritual work or not, for you to not experience, learn, grow, and expand, which are kind of the same, but expansion of consciousness is a bit different. It's impossible. As long as you are breathing, and more importantly thinking, you are experiencing, learning, growing, and expanding. No matter what. Okay, I would argue this with any spiritual teacher. And people will say, well, no, you know, I know Bob, my next door neighbor, and geez, he just seems to be such a low vibration. I mean, all he cares about is beer and getting drunk and doing this and doing that. But guess what? Bob is still learning, growing, expanding his consciousness. Just at that level, we are not to judge. We are all one. We are all one. This is a guiding spiritual principle of the law of one. It's a guiding spiritual principle of all the galactics and all the teachings. When you combine them and summarize them down, we are all one. The reason we say that is because as you get up in density, you know, you've heard this, the 3D, the 4D, we're all, you know, the goal is to get to 5D. Keep in mind it's the ego in the left brain that needs these numbers, but let's go ahead and use them. They're good markers. When you get to 5D, that's unity consciousness. Anything below that, 4D is collective consciousness, 3D is group consciousness. So group consciousness at 3D is me and mine. That's all I care about is me and mine. 4D is, okay, I guess we are kind of a family. We're like an earth family. We're all earthlings. See, that's collective consciousness. Above that is unity consciousness, from the unity meaning one. We are one consciousness. We are all part of God. We are all part of source, however, whatever word you wish to use. We are fractured off from source so that source could learn, grow, and expand itself through us. And so it's your personal journey. And I'm bringing this up because I'm really getting on this tonight because it seems to be something that's coming up that I'm in, where people are, give me one moment, where people coming up again with this spiritual elitism. Back in the 1990s, we used to call it spiritual snobs. Okay, because they think they're better, they think they're superior based upon their frequency or based upon such and such teachings or some certification that they receive. That's all garbage. The only one that cares about that is you and your ego. Soul doesn't care. The only thing soul cares about is growth, and the soul is ruthless. It took me years to really accept this. What do you mean the soul is ruthless? Think about it. Certain soul beings come into this planet handicapped, go through horrible accidents, horrible lives, all for what purpose? You say, oh my God, life is so cruel. Life is not cruel. This is a school. This is a learning ground. And so the soul only cares about those things I mentioned. Growth, experience, learning, expansion. That's all the soul cares about. And so we're here in a unity consciousness, or going towards a unity consciousness. The soul doesn't care about grades. It doesn't care about, oh, did you reach such and such frequency, etc. Soul doesn't care about that. There's lots of models. There's models that show when you're at 200 hertz, you're of ascension consciousness. And if you're below that, you're at collective consciousness. And those are all nice to have those numbers. The left brain is the only one. The ego is the only one that cares about that. The heart, which if you watched any of my other videos, I bring it up all the time. I also harp on other spiritual teachers about this. The heart is where all your truth comes from. Please listen to this again. The heart is where all of your truth, and it's your truth. It's not my truth. It's your truth. The heart is where it comes from, not emotions. Okay. The heart is feelings, which is an incoming sensing. Emotions are emote. It's like, I'm angry about something. That's emotions. It's a reaction to what you're sensing. The only purpose for the mind is to keep us safe. Because we're in 3D. There's lions and tigers and bears, okay? We need to stay protected. That's the purpose of the mind. The mind is to filter what your heart is sensing. And then there's instincts. There is the animal form as well. So we are going into this unity consciousness, right? It could take us 100 years. I don't know. It could take somebody tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow they become enlightened. They ascend. Okay. All ascension means is that the body itself is changing. The DNA is changing. We're going from 2 strands to 12 strands is what we're supposed to be. There's a whole reason behind that I can't get into tonight. We're ascending our bodies with us. We're taking 3D, this 3D experience with us. And so the most important thing you can do as a soul is for you to grow the way you think you should. I've said this in my other broadcast. Be your own guru. Be your own teacher. You don't have to listen to anyone else, including me. I only consider myself to be a guide. Okay, a guide is somebody that's like, hey, Hal's been climbed this mountain before, and you're climbing with him, right? So we're both going up together, and I just happen to have gone this certain path before. That's what a guide is. A guide doesn't tell you, okay, now see those 2 paths? You have to go that way. And if you're getting any spiritual teachers, anybody you're watching online that's telling you must or have, or doing closed-end statements or closed-end sentences, okay, that's not the way it is. The way you should be learning and growing is through your own intuition, which comes through your heart. And all I can do is guide you. All I can do is tell you how this whole mechanism works, and then you can do what you wish. Give you an example. There's many people, and you've met them, maybe a little older usually. They just garden. They tend to their garden all day. They get into that mindfulness place. They're very enlightened. Not all of them, but I'm using that as an example. So you are your own guru. You are your own teacher. And so the topic again is about spiritual deception, because it's a form of deception. Don't get me wrong, these other teachers, and I'm not bad-mouthing anybody, I'll never bring somebody's name up for many reasons. I can only tell you from the energies I sense and some of the light workers I work with, for all of us to ascend and grow and expand and learn requires us to become sovereign. Okay, and you've heard this before. This was going on 30 years ago. They talked about sovereignty. Sovereignty simply means you're free. In a simple sense, you can look it up. I always recommend people keep a copy of a dictionary. Try to keep several versions. An old one. You can see this one's bookmarked. An old version, because the power of words are different 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and then keep a newer one. Look up the word sovereign. In simple terms, sovereign means you're free. Okay? That doesn't simply mean, well, I'm not in prison, or I don't need a job, or I'm free to travel. That's part of freedom. True freedom means I am self-contained. I have all my own answers. And you study enough of the teachings, and that's what it all comes back to. all comes back to we're becoming one with Source. We're becoming one with God, unity consciousness. What that truly means is we're going to start to remember the veil. You've heard about the veil that went over us so we could learn and grow here. This is a dense school. So a veil was put up. If a veil wasn't put up, you would go bonkers. This is the way it was described to me 30 years ago. The reason we have a veil, there's other reasons as well, but the primary spiritual reason is if suddenly the veil came off you and you understood fully who you are, it would drive you insane. So it's given to you in small pieces, and your acceptability and allowing of that is your choice. If you want to do it very, 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 very quickly, fine. Go up on a mountain, that's what I would recommend, okay, so that you're away from civilization. Go up on a mountain and just dedicate yourself for the next 6 months or whatever it takes. That's one way to speed it up. And that's why most ascended beings did this. There's a very good book out there called Avatar. I can't remember the author now. I'll bring it next time. Very good book on ascension, the ascension process. So again, the topic tonight is about spiritual deception. I'm really kind of warning everybody about being true to yourself. If you have a hard time, sort of discerning, and I very rarely use this word, but I'm bringing it up for a reason. I'm going to read off the dictionary definition for you. Better words to use instead of discerning, because whenever I hear what I call habitual words, discerning, every teacher out there uses that word. Okay, that's what's called a mass thought word. Just like in the media, in the news and such, they'll use the word literal. Literally. That's to keep you firmly planted in your ego. The word discernment has the word judgment in it. I prefer using sensing and examining. So if you're having trouble examining and sensing or using your intuition when listening to a spiritual teacher online, and perhaps you're not quite there with your intuition, I'll do another class on just the intuition, and you can look up my videos on TikTok. I have videos over there. It's at Soul Learn over at TikTok. I have videos over there about intuition. But if you're having problems accessing your intuition, you can still use your mind, but examine, which is literal, right? It's very logical, like, oh, I noticed such and such and such about this teacher. There's some judgment in there, of course, because as human beings we judge. And then use your feelings, use your sensings, get quiet. I just watched this video with this spiritual teacher. Something just doesn't feel right. That's your heart. And follow your first instincts. If that's what comes up, then say, okay, I may have to examine this a little further, and use the balance between the two, the mind, the heart, the mind, the heart, the mind, the heart, but primarily use your heart. And don't fall into spiritual deception. If it feels wrong for you, it's wrong for you, okay? Listen to your intuition. And again, I'm not saying these people are evil or bad for doing this. They have the right intentions in mind, but they are far too much in their egos as they're teaching. And the ego of a spiritual teacher looks something like this: is, oh, I'm always right. Oh, as you can see, I made that prediction and it came true. I've ascended, my frequency is such and such. Okay, if they're bragging, if they're looking for a medal or looking for a crown of some sort, there's something wrong with that. That means there's ego involved. Okay, so that's all my whole point about spiritual deception and elitism. The other topic that I did want to bring up, and again, I'll do this based upon any questions. And you're welcome, Christine. Thank you for being here. Any questions that come up on either TikTok or Facebook. So the second thing is about finding purpose, okay? And I'm going to be teaching 2 classes coming up. This is my only plug for this hour here. I'll be teaching a class in finding purpose. That'll probably be a longer class, about 4 weeks long. And then I'm going to be teaching a very short class, probably 2 hours or less, maybe an hour Saturday, Sunday, or maybe 2 hours in one day. Very short little class. I'll make it very affordable for everyone. And that's going to be on anxiety and worry, how to stop fears, how to stop panic attacks, things like that. Let me know if you'd like that so I can get some feedback if you guys would like that. And I can also do a shorter class in finding purpose as well, a more condensed class. But the thing about finding purpose that I always get into with people, because many people they ask the question of, well, how do I find my purpose? I don't know what my purpose in life is, right? So I know, and I've been, old enough, and I've been doing the work long enough that I know my purpose, I know myself, and I've asked the right questions over the years. It took me a while, but I know that I'm a teacher, primarily above all things. I like to teach. It's my passion. And that's the first step. That's the first clue is, again, follow your heart. In this case, you're following your heart to see what makes your heart flutter. If you get, oh, I'm so excited to teach, right? If it's like that, okay, then you know that's your purpose. And it's simplistic, and there's more to it. I teach more of a process and steps to take in the classes on purpose. That's one place that you can look for clues. If it makes your heart flutter, okay, then that's part of your purpose. The second aspect is search back when you were a child. And I'm talking where you were kind of young enough to really think about, what do I want to be when I grow up, right? We've all done this, right? I don't know what age it would be for you, and you've probably done it over the years, just like I have as well. Like, what do I want to be? You're now like 35, and what do I want to do when I grow up, right? That's great. That's awesome, because that means you're questioning and trying to find out what your purpose is. But if you go back as far as you can go back and remember as a child, see, because the child doesn't have a lot of ego. That's why I always tell people to go back to the child. Your child is free. Children are mostly right-brained up until a certain age, and so they're mostly on their hearts up until a certain age. So think back on the thing that you said, wow, I just love doing this. And it could be simple. It could be, well, I like playing in the mud, right? It's a simple example. So how do you apply that as an adult, and specifically how do you apply that and maybe get paid for it as a vocation? What is it about playing in the mud that made you happy? I don't know, it's just kind of squishy and I just like mushing it in my hands. Oh, okay. So what kind of feeling did that give you? Oh, I just felt really playful and it was really fun. Well, good. So then you know part of your purpose is to do things that are playful, fun, creative possibly, right? Artistic sort of things like that. Depending upon, again, going back to a childhood moment in which you were kind of thinking about, what should I do when I grow up? The last thing I wanted to leave you with purpose, because I can't really get into it. It takes, several hours to do the teachings on this. But the last thing I want to leave you with on purpose is there's two kinds of purpose. There's a universal purpose, and then there's your own personal purpose. Okay, so I'll read this off to you from my course. Purpose on the universal level is the same for all. On a soul level, the only purpose all of us have here is to grow, expand, learn, and experience, like I said at the beginning of this broadcast. That's all we do here. So that's universally, everyone on planet Earth is doing this. And you say, well, no, that can't be. Like, what about people in a different country? They work on farms, or maybe they work in an office, or maybe they have a different job than me. So that can't be right. Every single person on this planet wakes up, okay, attends to some sort of grooming, depending upon whether they have a water supply or not. Maybe they brush their teeth. Maybe they splash their face and their head a little bit, wash their hands. They normally prepare some sort of a beverage. They normally prepare some sort of food. You see where I'm going with this? Everybody, if you're a man or a woman and you're wearing pants, you put your pants on one leg at a time. Okay. And there's habitual thinking. Remember, try to think about which leg you primarily put on, because that's habitual thinking. That's a whole other topic. But we all do the same actions. We all do the same steps. We all think the same things. If you have children, you worry about your children. If you're not having enough money, you worry about not having enough money. These are all universal, okay, around the world. That's universal purpose. Everybody has that. Personal purpose is what I'm describing, okay, those exercises. Personal purpose is to you. It's personal to you. This is why even at the first part of this about spiritual deception, I'm stressing to everyone, use your own intuition, use your own examining and feeling, and use your own purpose that's for you. The big, gigantic mistake that everyone makes with their personal purpose is asking others their opinion, like, well, do you think I should be an artist? Do you think I should change careers? Now, depending upon what kind of friend you have or spouse, okay, they're either going to be very supportive or they're going to be naysayers. There's very little in between, usually. If they're very supportive and they're truly a very good friend, a very good spouse, a child, someone at the coffee shop, a random stranger, you'll get it immediately. It'll just come into that intuition. You'll be like, yeah, that just feels right. Notice I didn't say think about it. That just feels right. And if you're looking for your personal purpose, it will just feel right. Versus, the naysayers, and they're not bad people. It's just the way human nature is, and they're trying to protect you. And oh my God, what are you thinking about? You want to change careers at your age? You're so successful in what you do. That kind of a talk goes on. And you have to balance those two. If you have both those kinds of people in your life, you have to balance that. But again, use your own feelings, and that's personal purpose. Okay? Yes, thank you, Jazz. It is true. Thank you for that validation. So, again, when you're looking for your purpose, keep in mind the universal purpose. So you're not alone. Everybody has to go through, unfortunately, survival for right now. Once we get into the 4D and 5D vibrations, then we'll no longer have a money system. This is coming up very soon, by the way, according to most intel. Within probably, I'll throw years out there. I hate doing this because I don't like doing predictions. I suspect within the next 1 to 2 years, we're going to have a financial reset. There's a whole conversation I could do around that. But my point of that is this whole survival mechanism and feeling that we've been in will not be as important, okay, within the next probably year or two. All right, so that's purpose. Again, if you have questions, you can always contact me on any of the social medias. If you want to go ahead and join our Facebook group, I talk a lot more in there. There's no, obligation to, but it would be nice. That way you have a nice community you can join in. I don't know if people use Facebook or use TikTok or vice versa, but if you do, go to soullearn.com. That's my main website, the word soul, the word learn.com/groups. And that will direct you directly to my main group, and you can join there. You just put in a request. You don't have to answer the questions if you don't want to, and then you'll join my group. My last thing I wanted to bring up within, say, the last 5 minutes here, because I know it's real popular right now, so I wanted to bring up a drawing of a card. For me tonight, I'll go ahead and use this one. It's Doreen Virtue's Angel Cards. And all I'm going to do is draw one card that's sort of the purpose for everyone listening right now, okay? And I'll do so randomly. I'm not very good at shuffling, so let's try it here, all right? And I'm just going to draw it out the way I normally do cards, by the way, because I learned this is called divination. Divination can be anything. Divination can be a pendulum. Divination can be two sticks in which, you're using them to find water. So divination, the root word is divine. Okay, this is just simply one tool. There's many tools, including, I'll say it, the Ouija board, which has a lot of negative connotations to it. I don't recommend the Ouija board if you're not very disciplined, because you will attract in dark stuff. So you're much better off using cards. You're much better off using a pendulum. So you make the pendulum swing, you just hold it. And if you say, give me a yes, maybe it'll swing a lot. You say, give me a no, maybe it'll swing a little, or maybe it'll swing clockwise for yes and anti-clockwise for no, that sort of thing. And you can use that as a divination tool. The thing to keep in mind, all of these things, the divination is you. You notice how I keep going back to you. Because you are the power. You are the source. You are amazing, amazing light beings. I mean this sincerely because I can feel you. I can feel myself. I've done 200 plus past life regressions, many, many, many lifetimes. I've been above the earth as it was forming, things like this. If you could sense that like I have and get a taste for that, you would not feel small, okay? No one here on this planet is small. If you knew your true existence of who you are, you would just be in awe of yourself. And try to do some of these exercises about finding purpose, and you'll find that. So anyway, you're welcome, Jess. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pull one away. The way I normally do these, this is my method, and this is because I've studied a dozen or so divination techniques. Numerology is a divination technique, rolling runes, tea leaves. These are all divination techniques. I normally lay them out on a table. I can't do that, of course, because I don't have the camera there. And then I'll wave my hand over it, and whichever one feels the strongest, boom, I pull that out. So I'm going to do that real quick, and I'll pull one out, okay? And the whole purpose of this is just to pull out a card that feels the strongest for this group right now, and I'll read off the definition for you, okay? And it comes this particular set, and I'm not promoting this set, by the way. I'm just using this as an example. I have about a dozen or so cards. This one comes with a little booklet, and then you look it up. So this is Archangel Uriel. Trust your inner knowledge and act upon it without delay. So is that valid or what? That's exactly what I've been talking about in this broadcast. And I'll read off to you very quickly, and then we'll end this. If I can find it real quick. If I'm not, I'll just comment, because normally I can't find these really quick. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to find this. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, okay. So I'll read it off to you. You are far wiser than you realize, and your inner wisdom has already given you the answers that you seek. Embrace this knowledge and trust it. If you're doubtful, ask me to give you clear signs, meaning ask Uriel, to give you clear signs to validate your thoughts and ideas. I can also help you put your ideas into action and make decisions about the next steps to take. Just ask me, and then be willing to work with me by taking action. Uriel helps to illuminate cloudy situations by lighting your pathway. He usually only lights one step at a time. However, so you may not be able to clearly discern the ultimate outcome of your actions, but you will know what steps to take next all along the way with Uriel's help. Okay, guys? So that was very appropriate, right? Again, I'll stress it one more time, and then I'm not going to keep stressing it. Again, you are your own guru. Please, please do this. And I also say this just real quickly. I also say this from experience. Back in the 90s, it was sort of a trend to follow gurus. And I followed one. I followed with this guy for over 8 years, opened up a business with him and everything. Went through the very typical sort of personal betrayal with him, but it taught me a huge, huge lesson. I became much less reliant upon someone else to teach me and tell me what I needed to do in life. And he was a little bit controlling, not terribly, but he was. And I suddenly became sovereign. I said, that was a big mistake. I shouldn't have just followed this guy blindly. Now, don't get me wrong, he taught me a lot of great things, but I shouldn't have followed him blindly. And that's really what I'm trying to impress on all of you tonight. The topics, again, were about spiritual deception and finding your personal purpose, and then listening to your own wisdom and using Archangel Uriel's help. If you wish, just call upon Archangel Uriel if you're confused. Trust your own intuitions. Trust yourself. Know that you are extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. You just haven't realized it yet. You haven't allowed it or woken up to it yet. And just don't